Ever notice how some people seem impossibly nice? Like suspiciously nice? They're always smiling, always helping, never raising their voice. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That perfection might be hiding something way more complicated. Because sometimes, being the nicest person in the room isn't actually about kindness at all. It's about control, validation, and a deep need to be seen as flawless. And that, my friends, is where covert narcissism enters the chat. Let's define what we're talking about here. Covert narcissism is different from the obvious stuff you see in movies. It's not about flashy arrogance or needing constant attention on stage. Instead, it's subtle. It's the person who's nice to your face, but somehow always reminds you of their sacrifices. They're kind, sure, but their kindness comes with an invisible price tag. It's a performance, and they're always keeping score. The weird part? Most covert narcissists don't actually realize they're doing this. They genuinely believe they're just being helpful. Their brain has basically convinced them that their constant self-sacrifice and people-pleasing comes from a place of pure love. But deep down, there's this nagging fear. What if people knew the real them? What if they weren't this version that everyone approves of? That fear drives everything they do. Here's a classic move. The humble brag dressed as a complaint. You know the type. Oh, I hate that I'm always the one organizing everything for everyone. Translation: please acknowledge my incredible organizational skills and sacrifice. Or, people keep asking me for advice because I'm apparently too good at listening. What they're really saying is, notice how valuable I am. Notice how much I help. Notice me. The guilt trip is another favorite weapon. A covert narcissist will go above and beyond to help you, and then, when you don't respond with enough gratitude, they'll feel genuinely hurt. And they'll let you know about it. Not aggressively though. Subtly. Through sighs, disappointed looks, or carefully worded messages like, "It's okay, I understand you're busy." That okay has about 17 layers of hurt underneath it. The thing about covert narcissists is they're incredibly skilled at one specific ability: reading people. They know exactly what you need to hear, and they'll say it. They're attentive, remembering details about your life that most people forget. But here's the catch. They're not doing this because they genuinely care about you. They're doing it because understanding you helps them control the relationship dynamic. You feel seen, they feel powerful. And the worst part? When you finally set a boundary, suddenly they're the victim. After all I've done for you is the battle cry. They get hurt, retreat into their shell, and make you feel like you're the selfish one. They've invested so much emotional labor into you, and now you're ungrateful? The goal is to make you feel guilty enough to abandon whatever boundary you tried to set. This is where things get psychological. Covert narcissists often come from childhoods where they had to earn love through performance. Maybe a parent only showed affection when they were being good. Maybe there was conditional approval based on achievements or behavior. So they learned early. If you want to be loved, you need to be perfect, helpful, and above all, nice. And that survival mechanism stuck with them into adulthood. But here's where it gets interesting. Being nice isn't actually bad. Most genuinely kind people have healthy boundaries and don't keep an emotional ledger. They help without expectation of return. They celebrate your wins without needing credit. The difference is that covert narcissists help in a way that builds dependency. They want you to need them. They want to be indispensable. That's when nice becomes something darker. They also have this habit of being mysteriously sad or struggling in subtle ways, not dramatic breakdowns. Just enough sadness to make you wonder if you should be taking care of them too. They'll mention their childhood trauma, their health issues, or their constant stress. And when you ask what's wrong, they'll say it's nothing. But that nothing hangs in the air like a guilt cloud. You feel obligated to prove you care. One of the scariest traits is their ability to gaslight without realizing it. They'll deny saying something they clearly said, not because they're lying maliciously, but because they genuinely remember it differently. Or they'll twist situations to make themselves look better. If you call them out, they act shocked. Wounded even. I would never do that, I'm a good person, you know that. And suddenly you're doubting your own memory. They're also selective about who sees their real self. With people who matter, the nice mask stays firmly in place. But with people they've decided don't count, or people who refuse to play along, suddenly there's an edge, a sharpness, a flash of resentment. They'll snap at service workers, or be dismissive to people they deem less important. But if you mention it, they deny it happened. It's all in your head. Here's something that might hit close to home. Many high achievers and ambitious people have covert narcissistic traits. Teachers who are impossibly patient in class but exhausting at home. Therapists who've helped hundreds but can't acknowledge their own issues. Activists who care so deeply about causes but struggle to respect individual boundaries. They're helping the world while quietly needing the world to acknowledge how much they're helping. It's complicated. The comparison trap is real too. Covert narcissists are constantly mentally ranking themselves against others, but they do it quietly. They'll never brag openly. Instead, they'll hint that they're somehow more evolved, more empathetic, more awake than the people around them. They'll volunteer for harder jobs to prove they're more dedicated. They'll talk about their struggles with more depth to show they're more introspective. It's all about quiet superiority dressed up as humility. And if you dare to have your own success or accomplishment, watch what happens. They'll minimize it, offer unsolicited advice on how to do it better, or immediately pivot to their own similar achievement. If you got a promotion, they'll mention their promotion from 5 years ago. If you're proud of something, they'll gently suggest ways you could improve. It's not meanness, it's just their constant need to feel relevant and valuable. So how do you know if someone in your life is covert narcissistic? Start by noticing patterns. Do they consistently make you feel guilty? Do you find yourself constantly reassuring them of their goodness? Do they help in ways that actually increase your dependence on them? Do they take subtle jabs while maintaining a smile? Do you feel exhausted after spending time with them? Do they rarely actually listen? Here's the tricky part. You can't fix this by being a better friend or more grateful. You can't love them into self-awareness because their entire personality is built on the belief that they're already good. Pointing out the problem makes them defensive. Suggesting therapy makes them insulted. They don't think there's anything wrong with them. And honestly, until they do, nothing changes. You can only protect yourself. The healthiest thing you can do is recognize this behavior and create distance without guilt. Stop over-explaining your boundaries. Stop trying to make them understand. When they guilt trip, resist the urge to justify yourself. When they minimize your achievements, let them live with their envy. You don't need their validation, and giving them less power over your emotions is the clearest signal that the dynamic has shifted. But here's the compassionate angle. Many covert narcissists are actually in pain. They built their entire identity on being good and necessary because deep down they feared they weren't lovable just for existing. Every good deed is a desperate attempt to prove their worth. Every sacrifice is evidence they deserve love. They're trapped in their own web, constantly anxious that it'll all fall apart if they're not perfect. So what's the takeaway? Be aware. Be kind but firm. And most importantly, remember, being nice doesn't make someone good, just like being difficult doesn't make someone bad. Real character shows up when nobody's watching. Real kindness doesn't keep track, and real people can handle honesty without crumbling. If someone falls apart when you're honest, that tells you everything you need to know. Trust that signal.